Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Season 1 finale of Quarry, the after show here on AFTERBUZZ TV. We have Tyson Sullivan, who plays Pruitt, so stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. All good things come to an end. Hopefully not forever, but at least for Season 1. We say goodbye to Quarry. And we've already said goodbye to Lucretia, our other co-host, because that last episode was hers. But Courtney makes a return. Courtney Henderson, welcome back.
I feel like a guest at this point.
Why?
Well, I mean, it's just been so long, but
people love you.
It's good to be back. It's been hard to watch and not get to talk about it with my co-hosts here. So, yeah, Courtney Henderson. You can find me, of course, on Instagram and Twitter at Cohen, C-O-U-H-E-N.
And our special guest for the night, Tyson Sullivan. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, man.
Better known as Pruitt.
Yeah.
The kind of fuck up, at least in James's eyes.
Yeah, Thurston.
I'll say.
His favorite.
No, you weren't.
Not a good character. So much happened. I can't believe this episode. We initially opened up 10 months earlier, and I was like, oh no, they're gonna go do this where we're gonna spend time in Vietnam for at least half the episode. We're gonna forget about it, then we go back to present tense. But they really mixed it nicely. So kudos.
That's cool.
What about Courtney? For you, what was your overall impression of the episode?
Well, I turned away quite a few times.
You did.
There were. I mean, we kind of said just before coming on air, things don't really end well for anyone.
No, they
don't. So
don't.
There was a lot of that kind of, I don't know, looking back now, kind of like letting it soak in a bit. I shouldn't have been as surprised as I was that everybody just sort of takes a beating and, just kind of is like a rough ending. But I guess it's just kind of
the way of Quarry.
The way of Quarry. I mean,
real.
Yeah, it is. It's just kind of the way life is and was, and they're not gonna button it up clean and pretty just because it's a TV show. Yeah, and because it makes me feel good at night.
And Tyson, you've seen all the episodes. What was, after kind of leading up to it, and obviously knew where it was headed, but seeing this episode, what was the reaction for you?
I just thought everything, like you said, stitched together really well. I just love that the conflict that went throughout the whole episode. It was a beating the whole time. The way that they mixed in that Vietnam stuff with what was going on present day, and then how that flavored what people didn't know about Mac's experience and other people in the world. I thought they knocked it out of the park.
I thought so too, and we get right into it. Like I said, there's the Vietnam scene, but immediately, pretty much 2 minutes in, we cut to the carnival, and poor Olsen.
Right? He made it this far.
And just 2 minutes into it, boom, and just the jaw, the way they did. I thought I was watching Walking Dead.
That was the first time I looked away. Not a shocker.
Yeah, that was so unexpected, because I thought for sure it would come at the hands of Mac, because that would have felt, full circle. It would have felt like, I don't know, like, whatever. Storytelling-wise, that would have made sense, but nope, we're not about making sense. We're about truth.
No, yeah.
So it set us up in that way. But, so let's talk about Olsen. Like, they wrap that up kind of nicely, and yet give just a sliver of there could be something for the future, obviously, because the songbook, if you will, is found at the police station. Is this a fitting end to Olsen after all his struggles?
I mean, I guess yes. I'm personally glad that it wasn't at the hand of Mac. I felt like in those final moments that he was alive, that Mac really was kind of like trying to look out for him, because I think at the end of the day, as much as he's fighting for war, and believes in that and has killed kind of on behalf of the greater good and something he believes in, I don't think that even though it would solve some of his problems, the detective being killed is exactly Mac's style.
Let me ask you this, and feel free to jump either of you that wants to answer. Like, was the way he went about it, Olsen, to Mac, the right way? Because it just seemed like the dumbest move possible. Like, clearly he's doing something, and all of a sudden you're going to be like, hey, Conway, look around. Like, where were you headed?
Yeah, but I bet from his perspective, right? Like, he thought he was saving the day. Like, this dude's coming here to kill somebody unsuspecting. Because as far as Olsen knows, he's a baby killer. You know what I mean? He's not necessarily killing people that deserve it, like what was happening in the situation. He, probably came into that thinking that, oh man, I'm going to save the day. I'm going to be a huge hero. And then he's kind of blindsided from, shotgun.
You saying that, it's a little bit skipping ahead, but it kind of has a parallel to what we find out Mac's experience was, as far as, they go into this village and what they're told as to what they're doing there and why you guys are going in to kill, and it is a worthy cause. Like, it completely isn't the case. It's a completely just different situation than what you thought. You think you're going in to save the day, and you especially, it's a rough one.
Yeah. But fun fact, I originally read for Tommy.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That is a fun fact.
At least they found a different role for you.
Yeah.
Why do you think they why do you think they picked you for Pruitt instead of?
I don't know. I thought he did an amazing job with it. Sometimes you watch, but I thought he knocked it out of the ballpark. I don't think, anybody could have done it better. I thought he killed it. But I'm very stoked to be playing Pruitt. I fell in love with playing Pruitt. He's a great guy.
Is it because you literally look exactly like Logan? At least
Do
right
I?
now. I don't know, the face and the mustache and the hair. It's almost frightening.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
And you said off air that Logan's one of your best friends too.
Logan's one of my good buddies.
So you guys just like kind of go for the same look?
I mean, isn't that what happens? Like, you become like your friends? Isn't that what they always say? That you become the people you hang out with, I guess.
I mean, I'm friends with guys and girls, so hopefully I don't start like looking like the girls.
You never know.
Well, when you get a bun on your head like I have, we'll start to worry.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's just, I was prepared. Like, if there was a betting pool of when Olsen would have died, at no point would I have selected like 3 minutes into the episode.
Right?
That's just crazy.
No, I in that moment when he kind of first approached Mac, I thought it was going to be more like he was going to cuff him or kind of take him away, and Buddy was going to be left a little bit on his own, or just I don't know. I wasn't expecting, like you said, Detective Olsen to be gone.
And they kept the mystery alive. The opening shots with the body being shot in the white. There was a lot of speculation. Is that Olsen? Is that what we're going to get in the season finale? And obviously it wasn't.
Yeah.
So I like that we sort of got that answered right away. That was cool to see. Did you interact with Olsen's character, with the actor a lot on set?
No, I didn't have any.
You guys were just. Where was that shot? The Vietnam stuff.
It was shot. Where were we? Like Lafitte, I want to say that pops to mind as the city. I may be totally wrong, but it was in the bayous of New Orleans. Maybe like an hour outside of New Orleans.
Was it hot?
Oh, dude, it was so hot and so humid. I mean, it felt like what I think Vietnam is like. I'm sure it was it probably gets a little bit more humid in Vietnam, but it was crazy humid.
In the little clip that they played at the end, kind of as I don't know what they call it, but they kind of talk about and break down a little bit of the episode. And they said that each of the actors, the soldiers, you guys got to kind of personalize your uniforms. Because they wanted it to feel like yours and to differentiate you all.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Yeah, so it's one of those things, right? Like, as a soldier, the closest thing you're always with is your uniform, right? Your helmet, especially back then, not so much now. Like, there's not personalization, it's a different army, more or less, a Marine, different force. But for me, like, the helmet was a big deal because in the research, you see these guys, you could see their personality on their helmet. I'm trying to think what I put. I've put in a few pictures on like my Instagram and Twitter of like what I had. And, I kind of, in retrospect, I wish I had taken that from set because it was a very cool piece. I know on the front I put lover across here because in the research I'd seen that and Pruitt's a very affected and kind person, and so I liked that he would put that about himself. And I got a pencil, a pack of cigarettes, and one bullet just in case everything else went to crap. And then some other great witty phrases because Pruitt was he tried to bring humor to what was around him, and so that showed itself a bit on his helmet.
It didn't show itself that much later, though.
Yeah.
All the humor went out of him.
Yeah.
But let's let's backtrack real fast and talk about Buddy. Out of all people in the show, he was in a way, the most endearing, especially the mother and / buddy scenes. They were just so much fun to watch, and even today. And then, you know, the ending result is he comes home and he's all bloodied up, and she doesn't know what to do with him. Just so many questions. I mean, first off, who ultimately do you think that even like beat him up? Is it premeditated or just kind of someone having fun? I'm open to answers.
I took it a little bit more at random. That it was just kind of a last or final kind of statement on the time and how, as a country, or, you know, kind of the general population kind of looked at the gay community with this fear and just kind of like they're just not understanding and not accepting of it at all. And it was kind of like, I don't know, I just kind of picture they're in a bar, you know, they're somewhere, and Buddy kind of hits on the guy, and the guy, rather than just in the moment kind of like, get away, you know, queer, whatever words they would use then to say those kinds of things, you know, he just kind of like took it the opposite and was like, oh, I can have some fun with this, you know, and plays into it just enough to kind of get him away, and then him and his buddy
do that.
And I mean, and again, one of the times that I had to look away, and it just, I don't know if it's just living in Los Angeles or if it's I don't know what it is, but I just, even here, because I have so many friends that are part of that community, gay or straight, that I've never seen such hate myself. I've never been there for it. I mean, thankfully, but so just to kind of see that was just kind of a shocking reminder that is something real that people face, and I'm sure that it still happens today. Maybe not to the same extreme, but in some cases possibly. And just, I don't know, it was a little bit of a testament, like kind of how far we've come, because that's not something I don't think would be considered normal today, thankfully.
What about
I think I'd heard Greg say kind of something on this, and it really shined light on it. He was talking about, and he said that
Greg, the director for the
director showrunner. He said that it really shined a light on what these people had, like where they were pushed off. Maybe it was Michael or Graham. I can't remember what I was talking about. Where these guys were pushed off to in society, right? So they were forced to go hang out at these places that were not great, so that they could, you know, people were there and could take advantage of them.
And when you say these guys, do you mean gay people?
Yeah, like the homosexual community in general. And so that was just a statement to like how bad it was for them, you know. He's just there trying to live his life, and he gets taken advantage of because of, you know, the shoulders of society that he's pushed off to, you know.
I think for, you know, just to, I'm unsure whether it was premeditated or if it's just kind of just the sign of the times.
I think the robbing was definitely premeditated. You know
I
what I
think
mean?
so too.
But I think it was like any person. Like to me, at least, that's how I took it. Is that could have happened to anyone that was there at that time, but they took advantage of Buddy because he was the one that was there.
Well, I think for me, you know, especially after seeing this episode, the extent of control that the broker ultimately has is so vast, and seeing, I mean, you know, Buddy looked like death before that scene. You know, the way he was in, like, his face was so pale, and God knows what he was on. And so I think the broker, in some sense, it's not a far stretch for him to know that the Buddy's kind of going through this, and he already asked to be out last episode. And so, you know, this could be him just the broker tying up loose ends through Buddy, and knowing that he's just going to go rogue. I mean, so much the fact that it's Mac that takes the shotgun away from him because he's, you know, going rogue with it already. Like, you know, I mean, Mac's bad enough, but he doesn't cross that line. And so, you know, at this point, he's someone that the broker can't control, and it's time to get rid of him. And that, to me, is a lot more scarier.
So, well, yeah.
I like that.
So, but again, I see both sides of the argument. I think, you know, it just depends which way you want to interpret it. So for those of you at home, I'd love to hear your opinion on that. I guess last question, is he alive or is he dead? Until I see a body, I never believe death.
Alive.
Because here's the thing, I didn't even think we'd see him let alone like
after,
that.
Yeah, true.
I thought, they'll just leave it at the beating, and we're left wondering if he's and the fact that he's already now made it back. At least he has some hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and his buddy, I wanted to live.
Absolutely.
Any inside stories that on the actor of Buddy that
I didn't get to work with Damon at all. The Vietnam stuff, we were like, it was amazing because it was like, you get to spend all your time with those guys, so it was like a real camaraderie. But the downside of that is that you didn't get to be around or work. You're kind of isolated from it. So
got it. Well, something that another big shocker, Moses. So for those of you who obviously listen to every show, we've spoken with Moses. I always blank on their real names, but I think that was 2 episodes ago at this point, and we asked him is Moses a good guy, and he jokingly and at this point almost I want to say sadistically said just watch, and oh boy, that was for him to completely just be on his mission and at no point really have any feelings towards Marcus or Ruth. Well, at least that's the way I interpret it. If you guys feel any different, please let me know and why. Just seeing him kind of explain to Marcus of what's going to happen if he says anything.
Yeah.
I don't know, did you guys see it going this way? Because I sure didn't.
No, I didn't. I mean, it became clear that, oh my gosh, now I just blanked on his name.
Moses?
No.
Marcus.
Thank you. Found the money. And so I wondered kind of how that would play out, but...
Smart move by Marcus. See, that's the thing. Whenever you come into money, you gotta... Yeah. You can't do that. You gotta spend within your means of what you've always been spending.
Well, and it's... But, I mean, I don't know. If I was that young and I came into that kind of money, I don't even know if I would have been as good at hiding it as he did. You know what I mean? That's a lot of money, and for him to have, he bought his mom flowers. He's fixing stuff, and he's got a story that could add up. Or I mean, I don't think Ruth had any.
No.
Hesitate. I don't think she had any clue that I don't think she thought he was stealing money. I don't think she was really oh my gosh, where this is a lot of money. Where are you coming up with all this money? He was spending it.
But Marcus,
slowly enough.
But Marcus knew that people were looking for the money.
Right. And so I think that's...
So that's where you have to be really careful. He knew that Joni was looking for the money. Mm-hmm. And therefore, if someone's looking for it, it's, you got to be really careful.
Yeah. Well, he obviously didn't think Moses was also one of those people.
It's a very Hitchcock method of the villain doesn't kick the dog, he pets the dog.
Yeah.
And that's Moses to a T.
Yeah.
He befriended the kid.
I mean, I was a little excited, I will admit, before that happened, that Ruth was gonna get some. I mean,
he was excited. He was gonna get some.
Excited too. Yeah.
And I was actually surprised, knowing what we know, that he, when she was like, no, I'm not ready, let's just cuddle, basically, that he wasn't just no, I'm gonna go home. That he, like you said,
But he had the plan. His whole plan from the get-go was, okay, it would have been a benefit, a bonus that he gets laid, but now by cuddling, now I can go up to the kid.
I guess.
He's a very smart
man. I
man.
hadn't thought of that. I'm not as smart as him. I would have totally got roofed. I would have been the one,
I thought you were going to say roofied.
Oh, no, not roofied. No, Ruth,
I get what you're
played.
saying.
Yeah. So...
I give her a lot of credit. I mean, for her, I mean, as an actress, the way her face came when she didn't see him in the crowd because she's been conditioned to see him, and she walks out and she's like, okay, I'm going to put on my brave face. That was, I thought, very powerful scene from her.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very well played.
All of the acting, which I think we've said from the beginning, stellar. I mean, for me, watching anything, a movie, television show, even a sitcom, for me, the acting kind of comes first. You can frame it well and you can have a pretty picture, but if you don't have people truthfully telling the story,
No, she did a great job.
you know. So
Very good job. Oh, we were all duped. We were all duped by Moses. That's all I have to say about that. The only question that's left hanging is, does he keep the money or does he give it back to the broker?
I
Any
think he
thoughts?
keeps it. I think he
Keeps it?
keeps it. Yeah.
And starts a band?
Yeah. Studio time.
Yeah.
There you go.
Maybe. I mean, that's his life's dream. You know, maybe he stupidly thinks he can get out. You know, just like Buddy thought he could get out, and you know, even Mac to a degree thought he could get out, but nope, sucks you back in. All right, before we let's talk about Joni, and then we'll start to get into the Vietnam stuff, which is the bulk of it. You know, I got to give credit to Joni. Like, you know, we weren't so nice to her initially.
Really?
Well, no, because think
The
like she was a
character,
cheating,
yeah.
you know.
She's cheating
I mean,
on him,
yeah. She's yeah.
You know, I mean, she didn't really give us indication.
Pilot,
Yeah.
sure.
But you know, now I really give her a lot of credit because she's trying to really help him, and she is on his side.
Yes. And I think you really see, you know, they go to his parents or his dad's and new wife Susan, and she's totally defending him, you know, and she says to Mac's dad, like, we weren't there, like, you weren't there, I wasn't there, like, and it, for me, I don't know, dating somebody that's in the military, that, especially knowing that at that time in the world, we didn't know what we know now about PSD,
Post-traumatic
PTSD.
thank you, PTSD, and just all of the things that happen when you fight in a war that are not physically seen. It was, for me, that was really powerful, that it was just kind of like, you do have a role in his being at war, and you failed him.
Well, you know, kind of in talking about Mac, how did you guys approach it? Because obviously, you know, to that point, you know, culturally, and I just think even still to this day, like, it's a lot easier for us to assess physical problems rather than mental problems, because like you can't see a mental problem, and so you just dismiss it, which is what they were doing. But in terms of the Vietnam, you know, Pruitt is very much psychologically conflicted. So you know, what sort of, I don't know, education, for lack of a better term, did you guys get going into that stuff for the show?
Well, I mean, you always jump into a ton of research, right? And luckily in Vietnam, it was really, you know, they say a lot of the negative outlook on it was because there was so much media attention. So there's no lack of material out there for you to be able to really look at and study. And for me, it was seeing, it's always through the character's eye, right? So it's like firsthand, what are they, as opposed to like a bigger scientific view of like, what is, you know, what creates this? And then what are you going through? And then what does that equal? And so for me, it was all in studying and seeing kind of what these guys went through over there, and you know, reading a lot of literature. I read a book called "The Stuff They Carry, the Things They Carry." I read. Another book
It's a very famous book.
Yeah, it's a very famous book, Tiger Force, which is another one about a unit that kind of goes rogue in Vietnam. I watched like so many Vietnam documentaries, you know, days and days worth. Particular one on the My Lai massacre, which is Quan Thang kind of they're not identical, but they kind of mirror each other. And just to see, like, you know, how realistically they could step into that situation was kind of my goal for it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was that scene at the VA's office was, again, I thought very well done overall.
At their house, like, how well written. Whenever I was watching, like, and she just goes, no, hold on. You said, like, we won't tell them about the pool. You know what I mean? Like the writing on that, the character on that, the way that everyone performed that scene. That scene was incredible. I remember watching that and just being like, oof.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, you see her now trying to like restitute for having failed Mac in those like emotionally, and just not being there for him, because now she sees how broken he actually is. And I mean, I get when, you know, the guy at the VA's office is like, does he have all his arms? Does he have all his legs? Like, you know, so it's like, yeah, on one hand, he's got that, you know, and who wouldn't be grateful for that coming out of war? But that doesn't mean he doesn't need help and that there isn't more to be done.
Because that in the research, that was very much the mentality, right? It's like, do you have all your fingers, toes, legs, arms? Okay,
Yeah.
you're fine. Go home.
Yeah,
You know what I
like,
mean?
oh, you
Because-
have 7 fingers? Well, he only has 4, so...
Totally.
Not
And
you,
there was
him.
such an outcry and need for help. You know what I mean? That I mean, even looking at it from the VA standpoint, it was so, you're inundated with this. They just didn't have the funds to, take care of these guys, or the understanding, like you said, for the mental aspect of what really happened.
Yeah, and even just I thought they played that so well. I love when they add the backdrop of actual history. So and how awesome that it's so timely to the election that's about to happen.
Right.
But just we're gonna close it down the VA office 2 hours so the employees can go vote.
Yeah.
And that's a noble thing because obviously you want people to be able to vote, but at the same time, all the veterans are like, wait, that's 2 hours less, and we're already not getting the help that we need. And so it's just very, very sad to see in that respect and think about. So yeah. All right, let's dive into Vietnam. But before we dive in, I want to tell you about. We've been telling you a lot about great supporters of this show, and one of the advertisers this week that we have is called MeUndies. So picture the world where putting on a new pair of underwear isn't just fresh, you're stepping into a better day. Think about it. Underwear is the first thing you put on and last thing you take off, hopefully. Why would you settle for anything less than the best feeling underwear on the planet? MeUndies focuses solely on producing the most comfortable underwear you've ever experienced. And for the price of 2 cocktails, MeUndies will deliver your new favorite pair of underwear right to your doorstep. Better day guaranteed. Try them on, and if they're not the most comfortable, best feeling undies you've ever had, then they'll refund you, and you get to keep the first pair for free. So hey, get to try it out. These uber cozy undies are sold exclusively on MeUndies' website, where you'll enjoy free shipping in U.S. and Canada. For a limited time, everyone in our audience gets 20% off your first order, but you have to go to a special URL, and that's MeUndies.com/comfort. With MeUndies, better days guaranteed, so you have nothing to lose. Don't wait. Go to MeUndies.com/comfort and get 20% off your first order.
Who doesn't want comfort?
Right?
I don't know.
That just made me think of the final scene, like Mac when he strips down to his undies
Yeah, got it.
and runs out and swims.
Yeah.
They have cool colors. I've seen some of their social media, actually.
And
The
it's for women
MeUndies
too.
campaigns. Yeah,
There's
no.
there's some for women.
I have not yet bought, but maybe with the 20% discount.
See,
I'll
you
go
just
do
need
it.
a little incentive.
I
right?
did.
All right. So the complete opposite of comfort is Vietnam.
Wah, wah. Yeah.
And yeah, we there's so much to talk about. This whole thing rigged. I don't know. I just have to start at the end, and we'll kind of backtrack
Yeah.
because the fact
Yeah.
that the broker is behind this crap,
Right.
all for heroin.
Yeah.
For heroin, he is he's scarier than I ever anticipated.
Yes. There was a part of me, and I think it's just the naive, just like wanting to just think everybody's like good. It's like he sees the heroin. I was like, oh, he didn't want the Vietnamese to be able to sell it, so he wanted to have it so that it didn't get turned into heroin.
That's what you thought?
No, not for real. But it was one of those where it was like,
Oh, he just wants to make poppy seed bagels. That's
yeah,
why he.
that's why he's back there getting all that. No, I know that's not what he was actually doing, but I'm just saying, like, there's a part of my brain that's just like, he can't, like, it's too scary. He can't really be that bad. So, like, it's got to be this other thing that isn't real, but sounds nice and pretty.
No. That to me doesn't even sound pretty. The fact that he would.
Well, no, I agree, but.
Oh my God.
No, scary.
It is scary.
Scary. Like, and it's like, if that, it's like he said he hadn't voted in how long? Like, since Truman?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of like, is this the first?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, where else are there drugs? What else is, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, it makes
Ugh.
it makes you think, and again, we'll go back to the Vietnam specifically, but like with Cliff, did he set up Cliff? There's no client. I don't think. That's just him manipulating Mac, be like, okay, your wife's sleeping
Totally.
with Cliff. We need to off him. Find out for yourself and do it. And that's to me what happened. There was no real reason to kill Cliff. But in terms of Vietnam, what I kind of appreciated, and I would love your perspective on it, was how well, you call him Thurston.
Yeah.
We call him just Captain James. Because that's what he kept being referenced as outside of Vietnam. But the fact that he was able to sort of hide this and manipulate you guys, and you guys, to your guys' credit, felt something was off, but well, how did you guys talk about it? Because obviously it's tough to be in a position where a commanding officer is saying, no, go do this, and especially for you, which we have to talk about, but you don't want to.
Sure. So had a great Vietnam guy who just knew everything about Vietnam reference, or what's
like a historian?
Yeah, not as he was in Vietnam.
Like he was a
veteran.
veteran.
He was a vet himself,
Okay.
and he, any question we had about Vietnam, he would bring up. And so my character in particular was an RTO. He's a radio operator. So he was the guy back then. That's what's on my back, like the whole time. They'd call in, and Thurston would be the one to do that. So you would be tethered more or less to a radio guy. So I was kind of Thurston's guy for that. And then, sorry, what was the question?
I guess the question was,
how did he pull all this together?
That, and how do you, as a soldier, especially for you, where you're conflicted of, okay, there's protocol versus like I think there's something wrong in this situation.
Yeah, no, I mean I think whenever you're in wartime like that, Vietnam was very much like you do what the commanding officer says, or there might be a grenade in your sleeping bag when you're sleeping. That was some very real thought, especially with a guy like Thurston. That's what you think is like whenever he, in that scene, whenever he's like, if you don't do this right now, I'll kill you. Like, that's not an empty threat. That's not like somebody being like, oh man, I'm going to kill you. No, he was really saying, if you don't do this, I will kill you.
And he would have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was not an empty threat. And I think along with also having that ingrained mentality in the military of like following orders, following what you're told to do, trusting that it's all going for a greater good. You may not understand what...
Like the need to know basis.
Exactly. You may not, exactly. You may not understand why you're doing something, but it's for, X, Y, and Z that it leads to this, and that's, what I mean, supporting the effort.
Well, and that kind of goes back to the conversation that Mac and Thurston had, where he's like, you believe in what you believe you came out here, it's your second tour, you believe in what we're doing, and it's like, well, do you believe in basically not fighting the enemy but fighting people that will save thousands of lives? And it's like, well, yeah, but you get in that moment and it's a very big gray area now because it's a fishing village. Turns out it's a fishing village.
Sure. But it's one of those things too where like, in that particular scene, like, I mean, I don't know if like the whenever we ended up doing that, like so we rehearsed it for like a full day. I think we were just ran through it. And then, before that we had kind of like, on paper, like, they had full models that, we'd kind of look through it. We rehearsed it for a full day, and I remember the first time that we did it with special effects. Everything you see there is minus the planes. Everything else was practical. Everything else was completely practical. They had to reload it. We were all shooting blanks. It was all practical. And I remember that first take when all that went off, just like blanking. Like I could see how you watch more movies and you just see the guy like sitting there and you're like, dude, what are you doing? Like run, like do something.
Anything.
It is so insanely like this is 1/1,000,000th of what really would go on in these situations, or what these guys went through. But just having that sensory overload was incredible. I mean, if we hadn't rehearsed it for so long and you knew where you had to hit, what you had to say, where you had to be, it would have been that, where it's like, and I think that's ingrained in soldiers, right? So whenever you get there, we're attacking this village, this is happening, you just go back into like what you've been taught and trained. And
yeah, well, I was gonna say, and even still from that little bit of footage that they talk about at the end of every episode, they, you see Logan in one of the clips kind of say, yeah, like it's 7 minutes of uncut in the war because you don't get breaks in war, and so they intentionally shot this as like 1 7-minute clip, or I mean,
yeah, I think the full thing's 9.5. I mean, there's
you said that they like cut to the planes, and so it's. But he's like, so if one person has a misstep, you're starting the whole sequence over, the entire war over.
I will never forget the line. I only had one line of dialogue in that thing, and I will never forget that line of dialogue.
Did anyone you don't have to call him out, but was there any particular person that kept messing up or that
Not
ruined?
really. I mean, it's just
Everyone
an
was so on it.
insane. Like everybody was nailing it. You know, I mean, you look in that final, what was on screen too. Whenever he goes to shoot the black blur, I think that was the character's name, the guy that goes down in the hole. His gun jams, and you see Logan go with it. His gun really jammed. Like that's at the end of that 7.5 minutes, and he goes with it, and it adds to it because that's the realism of being in war, right? It's like stuff's not always going how you want, and Logan's such a great actor that he just went with it and it flavored that scene even better.
Yeah, he didn't stop and be like, all right, starting over.
Yeah, no, he didn't just like turn around like, okay, guys, go back to the beginning. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, and imagine if he had.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, like what that you lose that shot. And,
Totally.
And quickly, as an actor, especially with today's technology, I mean, how often are you able to shoot? When he says practical, just to clarify, that means no green screens. Everything you see, the actors really saw and experienced and got to have, which isn't very common anymore, especially for a scene of that capacity.
Yeah, it was. Like I said, it was complete sensory overload. Whenever you
Because
have,
you're hearing the real bullets and the explosions.
and
like
you're
that's-
shooting. I mean, like
Yeah.
you're not just watching; you're like a part of it.
Yeah.
Like you're a piece of it. And I mean, yeah, they had all of us Marines. We all had we all had like, I don't remember, like 2 or 3 magazines that we had to like load and reload ourselves during the thing. They had like a machine gun set up, flamethrowers, huts on fire, people on fire, napalm. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, the stunt guys were all like, man, this is awesome.
That's to kind of that point, like for the show. I mean, and they talked about they wanted it to be that real. One of the guys, it might have been the director, said, we wanted a vet that fought in Vietnam to watch this and have it stand up.
Yeah.
They wanted the village to look like it. They wanted everything to feel and look the way that it did for them.
Yeah.
And for you guys. I mean,
Yeah,
as an actor, that's such a treat.
We tried really hard to fulfill that. I mean, like, we wanted to be as honest and truthful, as it was back. And they're down to like, okay, what do you do with your dog tag? Oh, he was like, you don't swing your dog tags. Like we duct taped them because they cling together. If you don't, like little things like that you don't necessarily know. And it was, like I said, it was great being able to be with all those guys, just to be able to build that camaraderie. I mean, by the end, we all had nicknames for each other. Some of them even made the cut. Like, you'd come up with nicknames for each other for different stuff, and it was pretty cool, pretty special.
Talk about that moment where you had to, shoot the supposed VC. Is he talking to English to you? Because it was a little bit indistinct, but like, is he trying to convince you to not do it?
No, I mean that's what he's doing, not in English. I mean, he didn't, he couldn't speak English. The actor, I believe, could, but I mean, of course, that character couldn't.
I watch it with subtitles, so that's why.
Oh, it came across?
Yeah, so it said like, please
don't
no
shoot
hurt.
me.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah.
So it was like, and he
Oh,
was,
really?
he was,
That's interesting.
In the scene, he was so quiet that it was like, oh, is he saying?
Yeah.
Is he speaking English? Like, does he know enough English? But you saying that now, it's like, this is a fishing village in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's a tiny fishing village out in
Vietnam.
Yeah.
Like the likelihood that the one guy that is still alive speaks English is not.
It's pretty,
likely.
it's pretty crazy. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
The question was, I mean, just how do you approach that scene? I guess
Sure.
because they played that so well, and you did.
I say
thank
they,
you.
including you. Yeah.
Thank you. They Michael and Graham just wrote that scene amazing. I mean, whenever you have such great writing like that, you got to show up as an actor. But it's so well written that it makes your job pretty easy.
What I liked about it, right, was just even film wise, we're kind of taken into the scene where Mac turns to you, and it's almost like you sort of become Mac. Because he's seeing, wow, this could have been me. I totally, and I get what your character's going through, and then we're taking that out of that scene, same way where Mac turns away, and I really like that sort of touch.
Yeah. It Greg really gave me some great references there and some great direction with that. And that scene was a tough one. I remember that got sent over a few days before we did it. I remember reading it and being like that's the stuff you dream of doing as an act. Like that's the deep stuff, and then you get into the meat of it, and it just breaks your heart. It's a tough day on set, but it's
Because
it's
if that
incredible. It's what you dream
doesn't
of.
play, a lot of the, you know what I mean. If it didn't work, then a lot of the weight is lost.
Sure.
You know, because you can have the great, you know, action scene that we talked about, but that moment.
Well, and
is-
that's the gravity of what I said about Pruitt. He's a very kind and genteel guy. Like, he's not a warrior. Like, he's in war, but he's not Mac. Like, he's not the guy like leading the charge and doing that. You know, so that moment for him is very, very, very influential on his life. You know, he'll be living with that for, you know, the rest of his life. Living and reliving that moment over and over. And so I just wanted to make sure to give that moment that weight, you know, because a lot of moments that we get like that in our everyday lives, we don't recognize them, right? Like you don't get that moment to do it. And so there is something to that, right? He's just trying to survive and live in that moment of that. So yeah, it was great. That was.
It came off fantastic. It
Cheers.
really did.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Let's talk about James, because as I said, I don't think there's no coincidence anymore in the Quarry world for me. James showing up there at that bar, that's
Total
not
setup,
a
yeah.
total setup. And the broker knows exactly what Mac's going to do upon seeing him. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Just like the Joker said, all it needs is a little push. and yeah, I mean, it comes full circle. We find out who the man in the white shirt in the river is, and that's James.
Yeah. I didn't even get that. I guess it makes sense that nobody knew like that was Maddie Nabel. You know what I mean? Like it's funny how you get like whenever you know the players, you're like, oh, there's Matt, and that's a big. You know what I mean? But it didn't even strike me that like people had no clue.
That was the
where
world's
he was.
biggest
Yeah,
mystery.
You know what I
it
mean?
was,
Like nobody
yeah.
knew who he was.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and so it's so funny how you get tainted with like knowing the characters or knowing who people are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's been a fan favorite to try to figure out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's cool.
Every week, because it's what we're it's,
Yeah, you see
it's the
it.
first thing, and then pretty
True.
much almost the last
Yeah.
thing we
Yeah.
end with.
Yeah.
So it was the last bad guy we got to kill.
Yeah.
So and I guess let's talk about Quarry or Mac now sort of staying in the game. Because the number one question for me is like, what's Joni got to say about this? Once he returns home, what's he
See,
gonna say?
I'm still not 100% sold that he stays. I mean, I know you see the bag and he pulls
You don't
the
accept
gun.
money like that and then be like, oh, sorry, I don't want it. I'm just saying.
I know. I just, yeah, Joni's not going to be very happy.
It's funny. I talked to my parents afterwards, and my dad had watched it. My mom goes, "Whose name's on that thing? Do you know whose name's on that piece of paper?" I was like, "Mom, can't tell you. Can't tell you who the first." That was so funny. That was like her first thing. Was like she wanted to know like
Who's
at the
next?
end of the top kit, like who they were going after next.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
I mean, that was, and I thought for sure, like, I thought the scene played out really well, very symbolic that they meet in the quarry.
Yes.
And I thought for sure, as soon as he opened that car door, he's like, all right, fine, let me go do it. But to have him be like, hey, what does a guy like you vote for? And the broker slowly manipulating that scene into getting him to take the money.
Yes.
That was, well played, really well played. And I have to commend the show. I think I do want a season 2. I think we've left enough mystery
Yeah.
where I want a season 2. I think Pruitt makes it in season 2.
Yeah.
We got to recruit. I think unfortunately Buddy might be on the out from the broker. Watch it be Buddy on that name. I think that. Could you imagine? Would Matt go for that? Why don't we with that? Why don't we get into
way.
predictions for
Oh.
possibly a season 2?
Now, your AFTERBUZZ TV prediction.
Oh, by the way, I didn't ask you this. Have you read the books?
I've read some of them. Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did you read them in order or just kind of skipped around?
I just kind of skipped around. It was a little tough for me to find like I stumbled on the one. I think I
Yeah.
read I read the original like Quarry whatever, the first one first, and then I kind of skipped around from in there. I've read quite a few of them.
What would you kind of good representation of what the books are to the TV show or some?
Yeah, I think it flavors the TV. They're definitely it's not like this book is X chapters or whatnot.
Right.
But I mean the character that Max Alan Collins, who wrote the Quarry novels, wrote is a crazy complex character that I feel like Logan embodies amazingly. I think that that character is well and alive in the Quarry, the TV show.
Got it. Well, in terms of predicts, so we kind of discussed it, but Moses, does he keep the money or does he take it?
I think he keeps it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
I think
about
he
you?
Keeps it.
Keeps
No
it?
comment on predictions.
What? Nothing's been written. We don't even know if there is a season 2. You can predict away. Okay, fine. All right.
Yeah,
so
that's what we think, right?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like there's no script.
all we know is Mac's going to continue killing on. So, all right. Well, there you have it. There's the season 1 of Quarry, and that wraps us up. So, thank you guys for a wonderful season, and thank you to Cinemax, and obviously you, and all the rest of the actors for a wonderful season.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been fun to
And there
watch.
has to be a season 2 so we can get Logan in here.
I know. Where can people find you and follow more of your stuff?
I guess just on Twitter. It's just at Tyson Sullivan.
Easy enough.
That's it.
Very simple name. Very simple. Twitter.
Simple guy.
And Courtney.
As always, you can find me on Instagram or Twitter at Cohen, Couchen.
And follow us here at AfterBuzz TV, and we'll keep you updated if there's news of a season 2, which we hope there is. And by the way, one of the best things, like in the social media age that we live in, just tweet at let people know that you're watching the show, that you like the show, and it does.
That's the biggest
It
thing you
helps.
can do for it is
Yeah.
if you tweet about it, you tweet at Cinemax, tweet at your friends, tweet #Quarry, and I mean that's the biggest thing that people can do.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys for a great season, and let us know your comments, let us know your theories. Obviously, a lot still left on the table, so lots to discuss before hopefully another season 2. Well, bye.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.